Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now.
Any eye over. Remember that game from your early childhood where you'd play it on each side of a garage or some type of a building, and they'd have the roof up and down there, and it was such an exciting game, you know. And what was the essence of the game? I think we all know how it worked, but metaphorically or symbolically, what was really going on there with that game? I think it's all about predictability. You'd throw your ball up, you know, and the other guy would see it come flipping down, you know, and then it might hit the gutter spout and go ding and go off over there, right? We'd see that all the time. And then if they can't catch it, then they lose the game and so on. Or we go back again, any eye over. And that's the only thing. You had to let people know that I was going to throw probably a hard rubber ball up there and so on. It would dribble down and go this way or that way. It was really fun because of the unpredictability of the ball and the essence of the game. And you could clearly win or lose. You know, we're in an era right now in our economy and technology and certainly marketing and so on where it's all very unpredictable, much like that ball that skitters up and over and then goes bing and goes off in one direction or another. So that's exactly what I'm talking about today. That's what this world that we're occupying, you know, and it's hard to know with the tariffs and the inflation and recession and uncertainty. I don't know. Other people go like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it and I don't care. I'm just going to push forward like I was doing 6-8 months ago. It's a very interesting time. People are interpreting the unpredictability of the ball, which obviously is the evolution of their company and our economy in general. So it's a very interesting time. And so think about ante eye over and think about how do you operate in this environment, and do you take risks? Do you have the ability to take a big risk or not so much? You will kind of hedge your bets, so on and so forth. And it also comes back to the longevity of your company. You know, several years ago, I had the opportunity to speak to I think it was a group of Rotarians or Kiwanians or whatever, and I was bringing them a brand new message. Brand new book had come out. A guy named Joseph Schumacher wrote the book many years ago, and he had coined this phrase because he'd studied all these companies and so on, and he found out that companies that just keep doing the same thing year in and year out, just kind of copying themselves and you know, kind of staying with the routine, are setting themselves up for what he called, and here's his word, creative destruction. Creative destruction. Again, Joseph Schumacher coined that phrase. And his point was that you have to, quote, destroy your company, remold it, remake it in order to deal with these uncertain, unpredictable times. Because every time you make a decision to change something or improve it here or experiment with this or that, the company improves, right? The company improves. We learned this, but we didn't do that. Now we'll do this, et cetera, et cetera. So creative destruction was the theme there. And I thought I was really doing a great job because I'd read the book and nobody else had. But I have to tell you this, the people in the room, and there were probably 50 of them or so, they were not thrilled with my message. They really were not. And in fact, most of them told me privately afterwards that they didn't believe what I was saying and that it's not necessary to have creative destruction, quote unquote. And they didn't want to think about that. They didn't want to be told that they needed to rethink, you know, the departments in the company and how we produce the product and the customers and different people that seemingly love us. So they're never going to go away. It's going to be fine as we go far into the future. So I listened carefully, and of course I felt a little bit awkward about it. I was taking it a little bit personally because they said, I mean, you're way off, right? Your message is wrong. That's not how any of us feel about it. So, you know, sorry, but that's a whiff this particular day. Now, I'm going to just jump to this day right now, this particular era. Do you know, I want to say this correctly, about 20 years ago, the average company was 33 years old. having, odds and ends, up and down, whatever, but that was the average number. Today, here we are in 2025, today, the average company lasts 16 years. 16 years. And that's a long ways away from 33 years. And 33 years, by the way, is probably a long ways away from the people and the companies that I was just discussing at this particular event. But all I'm saying is change, the ability to adapt to change, this is the key factor for success. This is the key factor for success. So, and by the way, if you don't do this, I mean, if you adapt quickly and you adjust and we got to do this now, we got to move, things are really changing around us, good for you. What could be happening is that competitors, particularly niche-oriented competitors, are watching you. They're watching you. And they're going to scoot in here. They're going to find one of your customers, or maybe two, and they're going to kind of scoot you in and satisfy a need. Maybe it's a higher quality product or a lower price product, whatever it is, but they're going to niche away at your diverse assembly of new products and services at your company. So keep this in mind. Competitiveness will eat away at you over time if you don't keep defending yourself, but not just defending yourself, but going on the offensive. That's the gist. Just remember that one thing if you don't watch the show for any more period of time. That's the idea. You've got to go on the offensive. You've got to be bold. Now, how do you do it? Right? How do you get people in there, your employees, they're all doing their thing. Boss, what should we be doing to try to move through this difficult, unpredictable chapter? So I'm going to give you some examples, some things that you could mention to them. First of all, you can say, we've got to create an appetite here for change. Many people go, oh, no, change, we're going to do this all over again. Oh, it's going to be so bad. No, we've got to create an appetite for change. We have to believe optimistically that this is how we will leapfrog over these competitors that have been eating away at our customer base for the last 4 or 5 years. So we have to create an appetite for change. That means that we applaud when people come up with an idea. It does require change. It may or may not be the best idea, but they're thinking, they're trying to improve, they're trying to see an opportunity. That's how you create an appetite for change. You go, I never thought about this, but we could do that, right? And then we could get all these over here and we could talk to my guy over there. We could pull it all together and we could go right there. That's an appetite for change. That's identifying opportunities. All right, next, and kind of ties into this, is be sensitive to trends. You got to be sensitive to trends. If you're not making an adjustment to a trend, then you are becoming irrelevant. It's pretty much that fundamental. Now, a book came out, by the way, called Relevance several years ago. It was written by a very bright man, and he was talking about the business association industry, not any other industry, not any other company or whatever. He's talking about chambers of commerce, economic development groups, various groups of business people in whatever umbrella they have. But anyway. And his point is that these groups are not keeping up with the pace of change in our culture, and we don't have time for hour-and-a-half long meetings anymore, was one example. But he was really trying to get people to kind of become more relevant and re-engineer their process and their principles, their goals, all of that, so that it really fits into the pace that we are living in right now. So that's interesting. Now, a third way to adapt to that ball bouncing down the garage roof is to think expansively. Instead of just focusing, well, we just do our thing, here, and we've got a few customers, we just serve them well, they love us, and we stay right here in this local marketplace, and it just seems to be fine, and, there we are. Well, that's not how it's going to go down. That's not the strategic orientation that many, many companies and very wise people suggest to us. You've got to think, well, let me see now, if that's happening over there, then that means they're going to be selling it over here. And how would we compete with that? Because our product is kind of like that. Maybe if we changed it so we could get into the gear over there. You see what I'm doing? This is how it is. You have big giant whiteboards, you close the door, you hold the people in the room responsible for getting with it, getting into it, creating on the fly, and projecting what trends are shaping our economy. For instance, factories and distribution centers, they hire a lot of people, a lot of young people, by the way, in their 20s, maybe late 20s. And these are people that feel completely different about work, by the way. They want a purpose. They feel that's more important than projects or product or even people. They want a big idea. They want a purpose. I'm very excited about visiting with some of these organizations along these lines, by the way, but that's what they are looking for. They're looking for some sense of identity. They want to be relevant to the broader community. They don't want to regret the fact that they didn't really do anything meaningful when they were younger, etc. So this is very, very important. They're thinking expansively, but sometimes their boss isn't thinking so expansively. Now here's a nuts and bolts kind of decision. Some of you left-brain guys will think about this and be nodding your head. When change is happening as rapidly as it is, you've got to decide, are we going to be building margin, profit margin, or are we going to be building market share? All right, which typically means lowering the price. Not always, but you're going to lower the price, or you're going to do something kind of cool, or a wow factor having to do with the product and so on. Either that, or you're going to build margin, which means basically cut costs. As long as you cut costs, we don't have to do anything else. We're just going to cut the costs, keep the price about the same, and that'll increase the margin, obviously, that we get every transaction with that product. So it's a big decision, and it's not something you should take lightly because it has strategic implications. You can't come up with a cool, fancy new product and at the same time cut costs. All right, that's going to be extremely difficult to pull off. So that's a strategic consideration. Now, speaking of a strategic consideration, there's another thought you want to think about, and that is to re-segment your customer base, right? Or even your non-customer base. In other words, there's a lot of people out there. To you, as you drive home every day, they all kind of look the same. They're all about the same. They buy your product and do about the same degree that he would, and just like her, all that. But that's not true at all, of course. And so segmenting and getting very precise, specifically about their psychology or their lifestyle or what they really care, not just the demographics, 18 to 24 and all that, although that's somewhat relevant. But a lot of people these days, they don't even want to be a part of a group. By the way, they're quite lonely because they're not part of a group, but that's a different subject. But the fact of the matter is, they think of themselves very unique. I want to be unique. I want to be creative. I want to do my thing. But what is my thing? I do not really know what my thing is. So I'm just going to stay home today and think about it. And, maybe I'll get to the office tomorrow, This is kind of how it's going down with this Generation Z. Very interesting, very frustrating, of course, for managers and supervisors and so on. Now, here's another thing. If the ball is bouncing, it's going whatever way, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to anticipate it, it goes over there. We lost that whole set of sales, those market segments over there, they're not doing the same thing they used to do. Boy, I don't know what to do, So one thing that can be very helpful is to build an alliance, to form some cooperative relationship, a strategic alliance, a partnership, whatever you want to call it. And of course, you got to be very discerning about it, but you got to find somebody who's authentic. They have a business. Maybe the business is not at all in your business, but by working with them in some particular way, they could help a lot, or they could introduce you and your brand to a bunch of other people in the world that they live in. So there's a lot of different ways to make a partnership work. It doesn't have to be, well, you sell grass and you sell fertilizer, so you should hook up. That's obvious, and that may be a good idea or not, but it may be more disparate than that. So partnerships, and then finally, leverage previous successes. You don't. A lot of times it's especially when you get afraid, you start thinking really, really fresh, out of the box, and so on. You forget that you did this way back then. A couple of years ago, we did that, and that worked out really well. Maybe we should repackage it, come up with a new name or something like that. Get a little department to work out and promote. You see what I'm saying? So maybe it doesn't require a home run. Maybe you can hit singles with something that you did a couple of years ago, and it's still valid with a little bit of a tweak. Okay, wow, that was exciting and hopefully helpful. A lot of people are going through a lot of things right now. They don't tell you perhaps, but there's a lot of anxiety about what are we doing and where are we going and what do we expect? And am I going to get fired or am I going to fire somebody else? This is what's going on in the heads of hundreds of thousands of workers and employees here in the Nebraska area. Now, today's WowBiz Nebraska is brought to you by a new company called V-Mail. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Thank you for joining me. This V-Mail concept, very interesting, and here's why. Nearly 80% of all companies and their sales forces, they spend their time sending out emails, as you well know, and maybe making phone calls afterwards trying to score an appointment. But it's difficult to do, and the percentage of times that these emails are being opened and lead to an appointment is slowly creeping downwards. So we clearly need a new, clean idea to utilize or leverage emails, and we got an idea. That's what V-Mail is all about. Now, as you might guess, V-Mail stands for video, right? Video email. But we're not talking about the old-fashioned kind where you open an email and then there's a link and you click it and it comes up and you look at it and so on. We're talking about a situation where a video, just a face-to-face kind of an invention, so to speak, is right there on the screen, all right? So it's been created and it's projected immediately right there on the screen. So if I sent you an email right now or a V-mail, you would see me on your computer screen and I'd be saying, hey, how you doing? Da-da-da-da-da. We're interested in chatting with you about our new product, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's a one-way discussion. It's not Zoom. It's not back and forth. This is really interesting, really, because people want to have the opportunity to be able to say their piece. And it's really difficult to do oftentimes when you're sending an email to somebody or even making a phone call. You want to get your pitch out there if you can. So the idea there is to enhance engagement, just to be more engaging, just to be more interesting. And people are going to say, I've never seen anything like this in our email. I don't know what to think about it. Here's this guy and he's talking to me. He seems to be really enthused. He seems to be, he knows what he's talking about, I guess. So maybe I'll pay it a little more time because it seems kind of a personal thing. I'm talking to the guy. I'd like to actually chat with him over a beer someday because he seems like an interesting guy. Well, anyway, I think you get the idea. V-Mail revolutionizes email marketing. Now, by the way, as things go on down the road and thousands and millions of people eventually will be utilizing V-Mail. However, up until that time, and as we start right now, and it's never too late to begin, right? You contact me individually, Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. I am a TV talk show host. I believe you know that by now, of course. And I will work with you to utilize V-Mail, send it out to your prospects. All you need are a series of emails and so on. And I will craft a personalized message in your behalf, all right? So we're talking about a third-party endorsement that's zillions of times more persuasive than saying, hi, everybody, I'd like you to buy my product. Our product's really great, right? It doesn't work so well these days. But when somebody says, here's why so-and-so is great, blah, 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 and you can check me out right here. I'm talking to you. You can ask anything you want. I'm going to have so-and-so call you, but I just want you to know he or she is really great about this or that. Whatever it is, I'm delivering an endorsement. I'm delivering the pitch, the introduction, and then the salesperson gets to step in and set up the appointment. Very interesting operation, very unusual. People cannot believe that these videos are taking up the full body, the full area there of an email. They're just not used to it, and so the novelty increases engagement, and that increases persuasion. All right. We thank V-Mail for being here. Very exciting and innovative operation, and we are thrilled to be associated with them, and that includes me as well. All right, we're back here at WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to be wrapping up. I'm going to talk about a lot of things quickly. I'm sure most of you know or remember that I've used the word occasionally urban natural, right? We've used that word again and again to describe, could be furnishings in a dining room or a living room where we have wood and metal together. You'll see that, by the way, if you go to Runza in their dining room, McDonald's and so on, you'll see beautiful wood tables, and then of course you'll see the industrial legs, sometimes aluminum or chrome or whatever. But here's the point. There was a scientific breakthrough some time ago, and it's called neuroaesthetics is the way to explain it. But bottom line is, when we see contrasting materials or contrasting colors, you might think about black and white with the Dow sign or whatever. Everybody knows about that. But it does go back to your visual cortex in your brain, kind of through your retina in your eye. This is all in an instant as you're looking at it. You walk in, you see a chair, a table, a sofa, even a sign or a picture, all of them bringing wood and metal together, basically. And it's all over the place, a very popular trend, but there's no word for it. There's no word for it. And there's a broader application. The word is urban natural, as I said before, bringing together opposites, city, sophistication with rural, organic, and so on. Many, many things, products and services. Many people, 50 million people, are also, quote, urban natural. They like to mix urban life, city life with gardens and various kinds of greenery and anything that's wood or trees. It's a very, very strong word for the environment, the ecosystem, and so on. So this is the defining trend. This is the defining trend in many, many different industries. It's also a fantastic way, talk to your architect about this, to attract workers to come to your city. And because they instantly feel kind of an upbeat, good feeling, good vibes, good positive attitude, good positive emotion. That's what comes out of this. Scientifically proven, by the way. Got to emphasize that with this particular, they call it neuroaesthetics. Most people I know will call it urban natural. So you want to be an urban natural designer. You want to buy urban natural products from urban natural companies. But here's an interesting thing. I'm going to hold this up right now. This comes from the New York Times. This is a full-page ad. Here you see an urban natural home, by the way. Gorgeous image. I'm sure you can see it. And at the top, there's a title that says, Meaningful Innovations for Everyday Life. I just want you to think about that for a second as you think about the Generation Z, the millions and millions of young people, workers, that are looking for meaning in their life. I know that seems weird when we're talking about design and all kinds of other things. What are we talking about meaning for? And that's why I had to bring this with me so that you could see the words meaningful and innovation together. That's what the next generation wants from you. If you're a baby boomer or a Gen X or whatever, you're trying to sell something, your company, these two words are the most important words in their lives. They want meaning from an experience. They want meaning from people. They want to see innovation. They're not looking for the traditional, the heritage. Let's redo the same thing Mom had a few years ago. That's not it. They're eclectic. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the New York School of Design took that word, urban natural, that I just shared with you briefly, and debated it for a solid week. A solid week. Every class, all professors. Because the notion of opposites, see, opposites are so exciting, very interesting. What influence it has. Is it all about diversity? Does it make us feel better? Do we like being with somebody who's exactly the opposite from us, etc.? These are important questions, and let me tell you, it's happening now. It's happening today. By the way, one of the things that we talk about in terms of pulling people together, it's very exciting. I'm sure you know what a strategic alliance is, right? We've all heard that phrase before. I'm going to show you something right here. This is how Mercedes-Benz and AAA of Nebraska worked together. This is years and years ago, although this looks really contemporary. The Mercedes operation out in the Millard area was selling C-Class, that's what this is at that time, and they had a moon roof or a sunroof. They had a dog who'd stick his head up out of the roof, and the idea was take a vacation, utilize, of course, the AAA vacation insurance and all the travel planning that the AAA people do, and then buy a new Mercedes and drive across the state of Nebraska, enjoy yourself, have a great time, etc. It's pretty cool idea, and I was involved in that exactly. By the way, do you know about this transportation thing? I think most of us have heard the phrase. We don't know what it means. The authorities are organizing different kinds of transportation, big, small vehicles, taxis, et cetera, et cetera. But I just want to show you this very brief thing. This is a picture of a van, high quality van, and you can see that it's been painted and wrapped and called, rebranded Van Gogh. Now, it's very clever when somebody says, oh, of course it's Van Gogh, right? Vincent Van Gogh painted like this. There's a van. Let's name it after Vincent Van Gogh. And of course, it is a van, and it is going to do one thing, and that's go. It's going to go. It's a very clever image, and we're going to try to get that in front of the micro-transit decision makers here in the city of Omaha. And maybe it goes other places. There's no reason why it can't fulfill that function in many, many other cities around the United States. Van Gogh, absolutely. Now, we're wrapping up here. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you so much. I'm gonna show you a book. It's over 25 years old. A gentleman named Tom Peters, brilliant man, wrote it a long time ago, but this is a foresighted man, this Tom Peters. He's still alive, and he's talking about the importance of revolution. Can you believe that? The man's in his 80s. He's talking about revolution in business. And there you see it, and he says, hey, when it's chaotic out there, that's your opportunity to rearrange, rethink, redesign, and recommit to the future. And that's what thriving in the midst of chaos and, how do I say it? Newness, unpredictableness. And that's what we're going through right now. This book is kind of a Bible in a certain way for what we're going through right now with artificial intelligence and, of course, all the political and economic chaos and confusion that's surrounding us and our businesses. So there you go. We've covered a lot of bases. We've talked about urban naturalism and urban natural coalitions right here in the Omaha area, organizations that sell products that fit into this urban natural design niche, going to be soon working together, giving each other leads and trying to help each other lift up and kind of ride the whole urban natural train to the future. All right. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see WowBiz Nebraska next time. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thanks for checking it out. Make sure you utilize this invaluable information, and we appreciate your listening. Bye-bye.